What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Today I've got a little bit of a change of scenery. You can see I'm in the garage as opposed to outside where I normally am in these videos. But that's for good reason. I've got a little DIY project that I want to give a shot. That project is a homemade trail cam mount. Now I know there are some companies that make mounts where you can stick them in the ground and hook the trail camera to them, or also screw them into the trees. So I'm going to try a homemade version of that that'll allow me to either screw them into the tree and mount them, or mount them on a post where there's not a tree available. So we'll see how it turns out. I'm hoping it works. I can't take credit for this. I saw a post online, and I'll put the link to that post in the description below, where they were doing this, and I kind of just going to follow that pretty much and maybe make a couple modifications as I see fit. We'll give it a shot and see how it turns out. I'll report back after I use these for a while and see what I think and let you guys know how it goes. And maybe some of you have already used these or have a better idea. If you guys have done this exact thing or made something a little bit different and have tried it out, let me know below. I'd be curious to see how it worked out for you, or if you have some other tips or some other methods that I could use. But the reason I'm trying this is it's relatively inexpensive. It's probably less than $5 for the materials. And I figure I'm not out much. If it doesn't work, then I'll maybe invest in some bought-in mounts or get some new straps for the cameras. Well, here are the materials I've got. Starting at the top, I've got a 4-foot fence post. You can see it's just a cheap fence post. I think that was about $2.50. It's pretty light steel, so it's not too heavy. Hopefully it holds up, but we'll give it a shot. I've got three 3/8-inch washers. I've got a 1/4-inch wing nut. I've got a 1/4-inch eye bolt. It's 1/4 by 2 inches long. I've got a 3/8-inch bolt that's 1 3/4 inches. And I've also got a 3-inch by 1/4 eye bolt. Several of my cameras don't have these threaded mounts on them. This one's got both horizontal and a vertical mount, so this one will be great. As well as this camera over here also has a mount on the bottom, so I can mount it vertically. This is a Primos cam, Truth Cam, just a cheap one. This is a Moultrie M880, I believe. It's a few years old now, and relatively cheap camera as well. I think any newer camera would have a screw mount like that. I'm pretty sure they're probably standard now. So to get started, I'm going to take the nut off this 3/8-inch bolt, and I'll put one of these 3/8 washers on it right away. It doesn't really matter which one of these eye bolts you pick, so I'll just grab the 2-incher, and then I'll grab another washer. Let's put that on. Then I'll grab the other eye bolt and another washer, and then I'll put the nut back on here. And so what this effectively gives me is a swiveling mount, kind of a knuckle that will allow me to position this mount in quite a few positions. And you can control the tension on that by tightening or loosening this nut. Then what I'm going to do is I'll take the nut off this guy, because I'll be reusing that. It's off the 3-inch side. And I'll thread a wing nut on, kind of in a backwards position. And what that'll do is I'll use this to tighten onto the camera. So I'll grab my camera. To start with here, I'll just put it on the bottom mount. So what it does is these 1/4-inch bolts will thread right onto the camera mount. So I'll just thread it on a bit. It doesn't have to go all the way tight because the wing nut will take care of tightening it for me. But I'll put it on a few turns here. Then I'll tighten up this wing nut. And basically what that does is it locks this camera in. So it's locked onto that bolt really well now. And the other end of this bolt then, the 2-inch side, I'll end up connecting to the fence post. So I'll show it this way first. What you also could do is swap out that 2-inch bolt with a 2 1/8 eye screw. And what that would do is you could screw it into the tree instead of attaching it to the fence post. In the post that I looked at, it said you'd likely want to take a drill first and pre-drill your hole with a little bit smaller bit so that these go in a lot easier. And that would make sense. But it should be pretty easy to turn in with the leverage you have on this other eye bolt. But for now, I'm going to go with the bolt setup. That way I can attach it to the fence post. I don't want to have to carry any tools with me in the field when I'm checking trail cameras or repositioning them. So if things loosen up or anything, I may end up switching to either wing nuts so I can hand tighten, or some nuts with maybe a nylock insert or something of that nature, or maybe a lock washer. But otherwise it seems to be quite solid. But what I've got here is a mineral location, an old mineral location on this stump, and it hasn't been freshened up for some time, so I'll probably do that here coming up. But what I'm going to do is just kind of demonstrate how to set this camera up and kind of test it out. I've got the post here, and I'll kind of see how well it goes into the ground. This is kind of typical of the soil around here. There's some trees around me and leaves and debris. So I'm just going to try it first by just grabbing onto the post and kind of pushing it down by hand, and see if I can get it. I'm going to maybe use these little legs on the post here and see if it goes in. So there we go. So the first time I shoved on it, I hit a root, which is maybe why I'll want to sharpen the post up, but second try went right down. But here's kind of where the adjustments come in, which is great. So it's kind of off-centered, and what I'm going to do is take the camera, and since it's on a bolt with this wing nut, I can position it in any way I want. So I can turn it around, and when I get the right spot, I'll just tighten up this wing nut, and it should lock the camera in place. So I'm going to kind of position it towards the stump, turn the wing nut a little bit, lock it in place, and if I need to tilt it up and down, I can do so like this. I've got enough tension on there, and pretty much that's it. It looks like it's going to be a pretty sweet setup. I think this is going to do the trick. It looks like it's pretty solid, and it should hold up. The only thing it won't hold up to is if a bear gets after it or something like that. I'm sure they'd just mangle it pretty easy. So we'll see how that stands up this year, but hopefully they don't mess with it too much. Well, that's going to do it for today. I hope you guys like this little DIY session. Like I said, I'll report back and let you know how it turns out, or if I make any changes to this. But so far, I'm pretty happy. And for less than $5, it's hard to go wrong with a little project like this. That said, guys, I hope you liked the video. Give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Take care, and we'll catch you soon.